We're going to start coverage of chapter 6 today. I'm going to post your chapter 3 homeworks later tonight. I'll give you guys about a week. And please be a little bit following instructions this time. You're going to get the first assignment, get the questions, only one of you. Because if you have multiple people open that, you're going to get different questions. So only one of you should open that, copy those questions. Those are the questions you're going to solve, and you submit using the chapter 3 homework. The first one is a test. What you put in there doesn't mean anything to me. Even if you have all the right answers, it doesn't count in the grade center. If I wanted to do the test, I would have done it. It's the homework. I want to see how you do it on Excel, your videos, and that sort of stuff. And in terms of group, apparently you guys are probably saying, well, each do three. It's your business, how you divide it, work. But at the end, you as a group responsible for the work of others. So let's say Patel did 3 questions and he did horrible. He's not responsible just for himself. He's also taking down the group. So I would actually somehow get together and say, did we do the right thing? If you don't, it's your own business. There's a reason I'm doing it this way. When you go work somewhere, your performance is going to depend on the performance of others. Unless you're a CPA and then you go down, that's just doing individual taxes, you're going to have to work with other people, whether you're elected or not. And a lot of times, how you're going to be viewed is going to depend on other people's work. So either do it together or check each other's work. You all are responsible for other people's work. So just because you've done your 3 problems perfect doesn't save you from getting only 75%. If somebody completely screwed up all of it. All right? So you guys figure out how to put all that together. Whatever works for your own group. But the idea is you actually get together and work on these things. That's why I did a distribution of different majors in each group. All right? And each group almost always has one finance major or an accounting major. Presumably that's stronger numerically. If you're doing it separately, then that finance and accounting major are killing themselves, are shooting themselves in their own foot. Okay, we're gonna start today in chapter 6. Interest rates and bond valuation. Basically covers how to value bonds of different kinds, what are some features of different types of bonds, how do interest rates figure into this. We say Fed has decreased short-term interest rate. What's the effect of that on long-term interest rate? How does the value of a bond change when the interest rate changes? Which bonds are riskier in terms of interest rates? Which bonds are not, or less risky? Or what types of risks are associated with bonds? You're talking about treasury bonds, you're pretty much thinking about interest rate risk. Because it would be extremely rare for a country to default on a bond that is denominated in its own currency. Technically speaking, that's possible. Government could say, sorry, we're not paying you. Of course, if U.S. government does that, that probably would end up creating World War III conditions. Because other than an asteroid hits, I don't think anything worse could happen to the world. For a government like U.S. saying they're not paying the loans, the entire economy would crash, and you would actually think that Great Depression was boom times. And if you look at the history of the world, whenever there are big economic crashes, that creates wars. Wars are always about economics, even when they're about religion. So you really think that crusades were about religion? Or, Muslims conquering half of the known world at the time was about religion? No. It was all about economics. It may be easier to put a religion cloth over it, but it's all always about economics. All right. Who has heard of something called a bond? I'm not talking about French bonds. Security called a bond. Anybody else heard about them? You guys don't read? What have you heard, Patel? It's essentially loaning the government or company money. Yeah, it's an instrument that allows one or more lenders to loan money to an issuer or a borrower. The difference between a loan that you get from a bank, you have one lender, one borrower, that's it. Bonds are essentially securitized loans. Let's say U.S. government decides to buy $1 billion. In fact, every week they do an auction for 3-month T-bills, very short-term government bonds. We just call them bills because they're short-term. And they divide it into little pieces, and they, let's say, $1,000 each, or at least the nominal value. So U.S. government promises to these bondholders to pay $1 billion in 3 months. But that $1 billion is divided into 1 million little pieces, $1,000 each. So you can actually go ahead and buy that and say, please pay me $1,000 3 months from now. The value of the bond is how much you're going to pay for that right now. So bonds are securitized. That means they're bought and sold as securities, just like stocks. Stocks are shares in a company, right? Bonds are shares in a loan. That's it. Securitized loan contracts between an issuer and collection of borrowers, collection of lenders. You may decide to get only one of these things or to get money, 10,000 of these things that are available. Just like loans, bonds are basically contracts, except that contract is written in the old days. You actually got a paper bond certificate. It listed the conditions. It says a lot of things. A, what's the total loan amount? Or what's the total payment that's going to be made? $1 billion. What sort of pieces you're dividing that into? $1,000 pieces. What's the maturity date? When are you going to make the final payment? What's the coupon rate? Are you going to make any intermediate payments? And are these coupon payments fixed? Certain bonds have fixed coupon payments. Every 6 months, you're going to pay $25 for a bond that's going to pay 1,000 at. Certain bonds have so-called floating rates. For example, I have a home equity line of credit. I pay prime minus one on one of them, prime plus one on the other. Prime is the rate at which banks lend to their best customers. Typically, that's the higher end of the Fed funds rate interval plus 3%. Right now, that's 8%. But in the next meeting, if Fed reduces the rates by 50 basis points, that's going to come down to 7.5. In a year's time, if the market is correct, the Fed is expected to drop the rates for another 2%. Instead of 8, I'm going to pay 6. So my interest payments are going to go down by that amount. That would be called a floating rate bond. Or sometimes the rates are technically fixed, but uh, the so-called face value over which coupons are calculated varies over time. The greatest example of that, Treasury inflation protected securities, back when it sits. Uh, Normally on a fixed rate bond, you pay me a certain amount to buy the bond. Every 6 months, I'm going to pay you a certain amount of coupon. 30 years from now, if it's a 30-year bond, I'm just going to give you $1,000. The inflation protected bond, that face value is going to be indexed to inflation. Like now, it's 1,000. Let's say over the next 2 months, over the next 6 months, there's 5% inflation. Then face value is going to go to 1050. Over the next year, there was 10% inflation. That's going to go to 1100. So every 6 months, I'm going to multiply that face value with the coupon rate to determine what your coupon is. 30 years from now, I'm going to give you the whole index same as the last payment. The idea behind that is in purchasing power adjusted terms, you're protected against inflation.